The science of astrology, as we all know, is a science which attempts to decipher the events and patterns that occur in zodiac from time to time and attempts to correlate such established patterns with events on Earth. In short, it tries to predict terrestrial events by studying celestial phenomena. The pandemic of COVID-19 is today ravaging the entire globe. Did the heavens give us some clue beforehand about such a tragedy that would befall mankind into a situation never witnessed in recent past? To put it precisely, can astrology throw some light on why this pandemic occurred in the first place and where it is going to lead the world in the days to come? I, Chandrasekhar Chopra, an avid student of astrology for last 30 years or so, has done a bit of interesting research and have discovered a number of celestial events and patterns that actually forebode such a tragedy on mankind much in advance of its actual happening. Today, in this small presentation, I am going to unravel the celestial design behind the outbreak of the epidemic in China as understood from the point of view of Vedic astrology. Friends, this is the first part of our two-series presentation. In this first presentation, today I will confine myself to the outbreak of epidemic in China as understood by the celestial phenomena and astrological patterns. In the second presentation, I will focus on the spread of the epidemic to other parts of the world and making it into a global pandemic. I will also discuss astrological pointers to what lies ahead for the countries of the world in the aftermath of the pandemic. Before we proceed with the first presentation, let's understand some basic Vedic astrological stuff. This will certainly help all of us to understand the astrological part of my presentation. The branch of astrology dealing with specific issues associated with countries and public at large is known as mundane astrology. How does mundane astrology determine what is going to happen in a particular country in future? For that, it deploys certain astrological tools. These tools are nothing but charts of national importance. The charts, such as charts for eclipses, transits, conjunction, the solar ingress charts, and the new moon charts are the charts that are used to examine issues such as epidemics. Before we move on to analyze individual charts of a nation, let's understand three important constructs of a Vedic astrological chart. These three constructs are planets, houses, and nakshatras. Out of the 9 planets, those that have direct say in issues such as epidemics are listed over here. The planet Moon signifies public matters. The planet Saturn signifies elderly and diseases. The planet Rahu signifies unknown diseases. Ketu signifies epidemics and mass deaths. Apart from these 4 planets, the planet Sun signifies head of the state, the PM or the Prime Minister. The Mercury signifies travel, trade and industry, and the planet Jupiter signifies revenue and finance. Next important construct is the houses. In equal house chart, the 360-degree zodiac is divided into 12 signs or houses of 30 degrees each. Each sign is ruled by a planet. Each house has some areas of national importance under its purview. The 4 main houses as far as epidemics are concerned are the first house, which relates to public health, the 6th house, which relates to diseases, the 8th house, which relates to deaths and epidemics, and the 12th house, which relates to hospitals. Finally, nakshatra or constellations is the third important component of a horoscope. The zodiac of 360 degrees again divided into 27 nakshatras of 13 degree 20 minutes each. Thus, each sign has 2 1/4 nakshatra within its purview. Each constellation is ruled by a particular planet and has specific deities. The starting point of the first nakshatra, that is Ashwini, coincides with the starting point of first sign Aries. Each nakshatra is also further divided into 4 padas, each having different lords. Nakshatras are a unique aspect of Vedic astrology and is a determining factor in interpretation of charts. Some nakshatras are considered evil, whereas others are taken as auspicious. Here the 3 nakshatras of each of the 4 planets specific to the issue of epidemics is listed. One additional nakshatra of Bharani is also listed because it is a malefic nakshatra associated with calamities and mass death. From times immemorial, Hindus have used the shapes and patterns revealed by such constellations to identify particular area of zodiac. The symbolism and pattern of such signs and constellations is the basis of understanding the seeds of future embedded in the celestial design. Let's discuss about the significance of symbolism in nature and also the revelation from celestial events.
The study of nature is all about symbolism and patterns. Great astronomer Edwin Hubble believed all nature is a vast symbolism. Actually, the nature speaks in symbols and signs, some that we can understand, some maybe we are still learning to understand. The science of astronomy, astrology, the ancient scriptures, and all the religions of the world is replete with lots of symbols and symbolism. The Great Pyramid is itself a repository of symbolism, some which historians are still trying to decipher. What are these symbols that the nature or the supernatural powers reveal itself onto human beings? These symbols are the forms and patterns that is spread in the cosmos by the way of signs and constellations, each forming a distinct pattern and conveying a specific meaning as deciphered by the ancient sages who have observed such pattern in the sky and related the appearance of the same with events on earth. Then there is a symbolism of celestial events happening in the zodiac. All cultures of the world have recorded major events happening on Earth at or around the times of appearances of eclipses, appearances of a particular star, and conjunction of planets in a particular sign. The ancient scriptures of India have recorded several major events who have been preceded by a solar or lunar eclipse. In Mahabharata, there is a reference to three sequential solar eclipses and some planetary position leading up to the Great War. In Ramayana, another ancient Hindu scripture even older than the Mahabharata, there are references to planetary positions and eclipses relating to a specific event. The Bible too is replete with lots of symbolism. The Star of Bethlehem, according to the Gospel of Matthew, guided the Magi, who were wise men from east or maybe astronomers or astrologers, to the place where Jesus was born. Appearance of the star is nothing but a symbol from heavens. Again, at the time of crucifixion of Jesus, the sky was darkened. Several historians have linked it to a total eclipse that occurred at that particular moment. In 1133 AD, the event of death of King Henry I of England is said to have coincided with a total solar eclipse, foreboding the chaos and civil war that immediately followed the death. In recent history, too, every significant event can be traced down to celestial events such as eclipses. World wars are no exception to this rule. In fact, there are websites which put out lists of historical events said to be connected with major solar and lunar eclipses that occurred in the past. So here we are. Celestial events happening in the sky do have something to tell us, and big events on Earth display a connection to such celestial events. Astrology from times immemorial used the charts constructed for such eclipses to understand the nature of events that are likely to befall a country. Modern science and religion are not at contrast with the understanding of each other. Only thing is, scientific explanation is yet to be postulated for such happenings. However, since the question how and why cannot be answered through the parameters of experimental science, it would not be wise for mankind to discount the learnings of ancient wise men. Modern science may be too young to understand many secrets of the nature. However, astrology isn't. It is one of the oldest sciences on this planet Earth. By examining the celestial phenomena with the help of astrological tools, several things can certainly be ascertained. However, astrology too does not boast of certainty in all its findings. As brought out in this ancient Sanskrit sloka, those who know astrology can indicate in a way what is likely to happen. Who else except the creator Brahma can tell with certainty what will definitely happen? Nevertheless, the only science on earth that can come close to deciphering the celestial symbolism is the ancient science of astrology. With this background on the eclipses and other celestial phenomena, we will now proceed to examine the celestial events that took place in 2019 leading up to the outbreak of epidemic in China.
Astrology has always tried to correlate astronomical or celestial events in the sky with happenings on Earth. Most important among these celestial events from astrological point of view are the solar and lunar eclipses. The chart constructed for the new moon for solar eclipse and the full moon for lunar eclipse reveals a lot of interesting information on what is likely to happen in future for a particular country. It is to be noted that the effects of eclipses last for months and years depending on the duration of the eclipse. With this background, Let us examine some of the celestial events that happened in the year 2019. The first of this celestial event is the 6th January partial solar eclipse, which was visible in North Pacific, Northeast Asia, and also China. This event occurred in the sign Sagittarius. The second event is the 20/21 total lunar eclipse, which occurred over America, Europe, and West Africa, and the sign involved was Cancer. The third eclipse that happened was the total solar eclipse of 2nd July, which occurred over Chile and Argentina, and the sign involved was Gemini. The fourth eclipse was the 16/17 July partial lunar eclipse, which was observed across the continent of Europe, Africa, South America, Asia, including India, China, and Australia. This event also occurred in the sign Sagittarius. Then there is a very rare Mercury transit of 11th November 2019. This was visible over Europe, America, West Asia, and Africa. The event occurred in the sign Libra. The sixth important event is a 6-planet conjunction which took place from 25th December to 27th December. This was visible over the entire world, and this conjunction also took place in the sign Sagittarius. Then finally we have the 26th December annular solar eclipse, which was visible over West Asia, India, Southeast Asia, and China, and this also occurred in the sign Sagittarius. What is noteworthy in all this celestial event is that wherever the event is observed in China, it is observed rather in the start of the eclipse or towards the end of the eclipse. So in a nutshell, there were 5 eclipses, 1 transit, 1 6-planet conjunction in 2019. Out of these 5 eclipses, 3 eclipses and the 6-planet conjunction was visible over the landmass of China. And all these 4 events which were visible over China took place in the sign Sagittarius. The 3 eclipses that were visible in China were almost at the start or at the end of the eclipse. The 2 remaining eclipses that were not visible in China were scattered in different signs and were over different geographical areas and were less consequential as such. That is, no particular geographical area was repeated. The rare transit of Mercury was an event visible over most of the countries of the globe, but not in China, India, and Southeast Asia. So we have seen that out of 7 events, 4 events happened in the sign Sagittarius. What is so special about the sign Sagittarius that 4 out of 7 celestial events in the year 2019 occurred in Sagittarius? Is it a mere coincidence that all these 4 events which occurred in Sagittarius were visible over the landmass of China? Before we go further, let us understand something about the sign Sagittarius. The sign of Sagittarius. This is a fiery sign representing lots of energy and push. It is a common sign showing dual and fluctuating nature. It is a double-bodied or bicorporal sign. It is depicted as 2 figures in one, showing both human and animal instincts. The first half of the sign contains a human body, while the second half represents an animal which looks like a horse. In mundane astrology, this sign is closely related to issues happening to do with people in general. Also, something to do with both animals and humans at the same time. It is also noteworthy that the animal involved is a mammal. Sagittarius, of course, is the 9th sign of zodiac. It is ruled by Jupiter, the planet of revenue finance. It is this fact that makes it such an important sign in relation to issues such as epidemics, because epidemics is as much about economies of the country as it is about the diseases and the life lost. The 3 nakshatras of the constellations that exist in the sign are Mula, Purvashada, and Uttarashada. Out of these 3 constellations, the nakshatra Mula ruled by Ketu is a dreaded constellation and plays a significant role in events such as epidemics. This is all about the sign Sagittarius. It is the only sign in the zodiac which relates something to do with an animal, which is a mammal, and humans. Now we will proceed to astrologically examine the individual celestial events. This is the first eclipse of the year 2019. As can be seen, the shadow crosses from China to Japan and then to Russia. What does the chart of the eclipse reveal? As can be seen, the ascendant is Capricorn and Ketu occupies the ascendant. As we know, Ketu is the chief significator of epidemic, and its position in the ascendant shows that the country could face a situation like epidemic in future. This is symbolism number 1. Rahu, the chief significator of unknown diseases, occupies the 7th house and aspects the ascendant strongly. This again signifies that there could be an episode of unknown diseases in public in future. This is symbolism number 2. In fact, Rahu and Ketu occupying the 7th and the 1st house axis is an ominous position for any horoscope. The eclipse is taking place in the 12th house, which is occupied by Saturn, the natural significator of disease, Mercury, the lord of 6 as such, again a significator of disease, Moon, the chief significator for public matters, and all of these planets are occupying the 12th house, which relates to hospital. This clearly means that the public is going to be inflicted with diseases for which they will have to go to hospitals in large numbers. This is symbolism number 3. This is the first eclipse for 2019 and it takes place in the sign Sagittarius. The sign Sagittarius is placed in the 12th house and there is a forewarning which shows that the public may have to go to hospitals due to some strange disease in a future days. As such, the year has begun with a celestial foreboding of an event related to spread of unknown diseases in the days to come for the country of China. Let's discuss the astrological chart for this important eclipse. As can be seen, the ascending nakshatra is Pushya. Pushya, as we know, is a nakshatra ruled by Saturn. Saturn is the chief indicator of diseases and its presence in the ascendant shows that the public will suffer from strange diseases. This is symbolism number 1. The lord of 12th, Mercury, is placed in the ascendant. 12th, as we know, is the house concerned with hospitals. This clearly shows that the public will be rushing to hospitals and this is going to be a national news. Note the presence of Mars also in the ascendant. The eclipse is taking place in the 6th house, which is Sagittarius sign, and here Moon is placed along with Saturn and Ketu. Saturn, as we know, is the indicator for diseases and Ketu is the prime indicator for epidemics, and its placement along with Moon related to public matters is a strong indication that there will be an outbreak of epidemic kind of situation in public in near future. This is symbolism number 3. The planet Rahu, which is concerned with unknown diseases, is placed in the 12th house. 12th house, as we know, is the house for hospitals. This clearly shows that the hospitals will be tackling strange diseases having no known cure. These 4 indications we can gather from this chart. Noteworthy thing about this second eclipse is that it was visible over China and it took place in the sign Sagittarius, and the chart indicated spread of unknown diseases in public. Unconfirmed news in the media showed that cases of unknown diseases was reported in Wuhan in as early as November and December 2019. In the chronological sequence of events for China, the third significant event is the solar ingress into the sign Sagittarius, which happened on 16 December 2019. This is the chart for the event. As we can see, the ascendant is Gemini and the ascending nakshatra is Adra. Adra, as we know, is a very dreadful constellation ruled by Rahu. The ruling deity of Adra is Rudra. The second pada of Adra, which is the most malefic part of the nakshatra, is ruled by Saturn. It is this pada which is operational over here. We can also note that Rahu is placed in the ascendant itself. This is a double symbolism. Rahu, by being placed in the ascendant as well as being the lord of the ascending nakshatra, has complete control over the affair of public matters. As such, spread of unknown diseases is clearly indicated in the public in near future. The planet Venus, ruler of 12th house, is placed in the 8th house. 8th, as we know, is the place for epidemics. As such, it clearly indicates that the hospitals and medics are going to bear the brunt of epidemics in near future. Ketu is placed along with Saturn in the 7th house and it is aspecting the ascendant very strongly. Ketu is the chief significator of epidemics and Saturn is the lord of 8th house, again indicating epidemics. As such, a full-blown epidemic is very clearly indicated over the country of China in near future. Further, as we see, the solar ingress is taking place into the nakshatra Mula. That is when the sun is entering the sign Sagittarius, it is in the nakshatra Mula. Mula, as we know, is a very cruel constellation having diamond-like characteristics. The symbol of Mula is a bunch of roots tied together, or the reticulated roots, and the deity associated with it is Nriti, the god of dissolution and destruction. The lord of Mula is of course Ketu, which is the chief significator of epidemics. All these combinations are clear indicator of an epidemic which is going to come upon the country of China in very near future. Further, as can be seen, this is the third straight event happening in the sign Sagittarius. The sign Sagittarius appears to gather all the seeds of an epidemic within its fold. In fact, the sign Sagittarius, foreboding a strange disease, is now ready to become a full-blown epidemic. The solar ingress chart clearly forebode an outbreak of an epidemic in the country, and that too in very near future. This is the fourth important event in the chronological sequence for China. It is a rare celestial event involving conjunction of 6 planets in a sign. The event also takes place in the sign Sagittarius. As can be seen, there are 6 planets in the sign Sagittarius from 25th December to 27th December, and as such, this 6-planet conjunction is visible to all countries of the world. The planets involved are Ketu, the chief significator of epidemics, planet Jupiter, significator for revenue finance, planet Mercury, significator for travels, planet Moon, significator for public matters, planet Saturn, significator for diseases, and the planet Sun, significator for the government, the president, or the prime minister. This conjunction of 6 planets, or rather this stellium of 6 planets in the sign Sagittarius, encapsulates all the factors that has the capacity to rock the world with an event such as an epidemic or, for that sake, a pandemic. Let's see what the chart reveals. As can be seen, the ascendant is Cancer and the ascending nakshatra is Pushya. We all know that the Pushya is a nakshatra ruled by Saturn. Saturn is the significator of diseases, and here Saturn also signifies the epidemic, being the lord of 8th house. This is symbolism number 1. Rahu, as can be seen, is occupying the 12th house. We know Rahu is concerned with the diseases of an unknown origin or diseases for which there is no cure, and it occupying the hospital means that hospitals will be pressed to tackle unknown diseases. This is symbolism number 2. The 6th planet conjunction is taking place in the house 6. 6th house we know is the house for diseases, and here the sign is Sagittarius. The planets involved are Saturn, which is 8th lord, Ketu, which signifies epidemics, Jupiter, which is 6th lord, that is diseases, Moon, significator for public matters, Sun, significator for government, and Mercury, significator for hospitals as 12th lord. As such, epidemic is now strongly indicated, as all the factors responsible for such an event are now encapsulated in the sign Sagittarius. The sign Sagittarius has been gathering all the factors one by one. Now all the 6 factors are there. Therefore, this indicates that the epidemic is ready to break open. This is the important symbolism number 3. Further, as can be seen, the 4 planets out of these 6 planets occupy nakshatra Mula. We know that Mula is a very dreadful constellation. It represents reticulated roots, and it has capacity to hold on to something and then not leave it very easily. This is the meaning of the symbol Mula. Predominant influence of single nakshatra Mula confirms that the epidemic on hand is a reality which cannot be wished away. The four planets, that is Jupiter, Mercury, Sun and Moon, occupying Mula, ruled by Ketu, clearly points to mass deaths and epidemics. Indeed, cases of unknown diseases in Wuhan are reported to be on rise towards the end of December 2019. The annular solar eclipse of 26 December 2019 is the most important celestial event for China. It is also the last eclipse for the entire world for the year 2019. Let's check what the chart for the eclipse revealed for China. As can be seen, ascendant is Aries and the ascending nakshatra is Ashwini. Ashwini, as we know, is a nakshatra ruled by Ketu, and of course Ketu signifies epidemics. The first and the eighth lord Mars is placed in the eighth. This indicates mass deaths due to epidemics. The eclipse is taking place in the ninth house. In the nakshatra Mula, ruled by Ketu, that is, the sun and moon are placed in the nakshatra Mula, and Mercury and Jupiter are also placed in nakshatra Mula. We all know the significance of Mula by now. Another note for the feature of this chart is that houses 8th and 9th are involved. In Vedic astrology, 8th and 9th house indicate southwest direction. Wuhan, which is situated in southwest direction of Beijing, actually became the epicenter of the epidemic. This is again a clear symbolism which is available in this chart. This is the last eclipse which took place in the year 2019, and this eclipse also take place in the sign Sagittarius. The sign Sagittarius already encapsulate all the seeds of a brewing epidemic. As such, it can be clearly said that an epidemic is ready to break out in China, as China is the only country witness to all the celestial events that took place in 2019 and which charts foreboding an epidemic-like situation. The epidemic is now ready to break out in open. China officially announced large-scale infection of an unknown disease in Wuhan on 31st December 2019. We have seen how the sign Sagittarius, the planet Ketu and the nakshatra Mula has played a central role in all the charts discussed for China so far, leading up to the outbreak of strange disease in Wuhan. As indicated from the charts of 25th and 26th December 2019, the epidemic was full-blown in Wuhan and lots of disturbing news from that region came in the month of January 2020. Let's discuss some new moon charts of China and try to understand the progress of epidemics in the coming months. In the new moon chart for 25th January 2020, the ascendant is Sagittarius with Ketu and Jupiter in the ascendant itself. The ascending nakshatra is Mool. The involvement of ascendant Sagittarius and the Mula nakshatra ensured that the onslaught of pandemic continues. Accordingly, pandemic was in full force in the month of January and in the first half of February. In the new moon chart for 23rd February 2020, the ascendant was Libra and Mercury, Lord of 12th, is placed with new moon, which indicates hospitals are occupied with patients, but there is no affliction to ascendant or the 8th house. This means the worst is over for China. Also, this is the first chart where Sagittarius is not involved, nor is the nakshatra Mula is involved. As such, China is past its peak. In the new moon chart for 24th March 2020, which is also the lunar new year chart, the ascendant is Leo and the Lord Sun and the 12th Lord are placed in the 8th house, which indicates some more new cases. However, Mercury in the 7th indicates the new cases are coming from travelers abroad. As such, the past epidemic is over for China. However, there could be some new cases coming from travelers that are returning from abroad. Now, why Wuhan in Hubei district became the center of the epidemic in China? The 8th and 9th house in Vedic astrology indicate the south and southwest direction in any chart. In the 26th December 2019 eclipse chart for Beijing, all the ominous combination mentioned above take place in the 8th and 9th house. As such, the epidemic as depicted in the above chart was supposed to epicenter in the southwest direction of the country. Wuhan is exactly in the south and southwest direction of Beijing. China first officially reported large-scale infection of a strange disease on 21st December 2019. An investigation was launched in January 2020. From January through February, the disease of coronavirus raged through the Hubei province of China, causing widespread infections, about 85,000, and more than 4,000 deaths. These are official figures. The nature signature on the entire event is very, very clear, as can be seen from these pointers. In this slide, I am going to sum up in a nutshell all the celestial pointers leading up to the outbreak of COVID-19 epidemic in China. As has been seen, the entire episode revolves around a series of events that were visible over China from time to time involving the sign of Sagittarius. The primary events are the three eclipses: the eclipse of 6 January 2019, the eclipse of 17 July 2019, and the eclipse of 26 December 2019. Then we have the solar ingress on 16 December 2019, which also took place in the sign Sagittarius. And of course, the sixth planet conjunction, which took place from 25th to 27 December 2019. We can see all these events taking place sequentially over China with a primary focus on the sign Sagittarius. This has built up to the issue of epidemic. We have further seen that the astrological charts of all these events for China reveals a series of significant patterns and symbolism. The planets and the houses involved are the primary factors important for an outbreak of an event such as an epidemic as per the canons of Vedic astrology. We have also seen the overwhelming impact of constellations of Mula, Adra, Ashwini and Pushya in all our discussions. These are just 4 out of the 27 constellations or nakshatras in Vedic astrology. By being deadly constellations or being associated with the planets directly involved with the situation such as an epidemic, these constellations have emphasized the looming threat in a big way in all the charts discussed so far. As can be sequentially seen, all these events have in a step-by-step chronological manner built up the seeds of an epidemic in the omnipresent sign Sagittarius right up to the event of 25th December and 26th December 2019 when full-blown epidemic broke over Wuhan in China. China officially declared an outbreak of a strange disease in the Wuhan city of Hubei district in south of China on 31st December 2019. Why Wuhan became an epicenter is also discussed astrologically. If we see the monthly new moon charts, we have seen that the charts for 26 December 2019 and 25th January 2020 had predominant influence of Sagittarius. The sign Sagittarius, as we know, is holding all the seeds of an epidemic. As such, the epidemic was in full force till 23rd February 2020. The charts for 23rd February 2020 reveal an ascendant which is Libra, and Sagittarius does not have any central role in this chart. As such, China is past its peak. The chart for 24th March 2020 again reveals the ascendant as Pisces, and Sagittarius does not have any central role. The China is on the path of recovery. Any new cases which are now coming into China are due to people coming from abroad. The entire story of epidemic in China is about the sign Sagittarius, which is repeated in all the 5 events, encapsulating all the factors including Ketu responsible for a strange disease and causing lot of deaths. Why December became the trigger point? Because December is heavily loaded month for China. The solar ingress, the 6 planet conjunction, the solar eclipse, the new moon all occurred in the month of December in the sign Sagittarius. Situation came under control only when Sagittarius stopped occupying the chief position in the new moon chart from 23rd February onwards. This is all about the outbreak of epidemic in China in a nutshell. However, before I leave the slide, I want to bring your notice to the celestial event number 3, which is presented in the yellow in the left lower corner of the slide. We have so far not taken account this event in our discussions. This is the event of a rare transit of Mercury. It is rare because only very occasionally the movement of Mercury across the disk of the Sun is visible from Earth. This event occurred on 11th November 2019, at the time when the disease of COVID-19 was actually brewing in Wuhan, in China. This event does not have any relation to the COVID-19 outbreak in China. It does not also happen in the sign Sagittarius, but actually takes place in the sign Libra. However, this celestial event has an important role to play in the spread of COVID-19 from China to other countries of the world. It therefore is responsible for turning the epidemic in China to a pandemic that has taken the world by storm. All of that will be the subject of my next presentation to be uploaded soon. This brings us back to the question of symbolism in nature. What were the symbolism that existed in the sky from time to time leading up to the outbreak of COVID-19 in China? Let's bring them to focus. There were 5 eclipses in 2019 for the entire world. The first and the last eclipse of 2019 occurred in the sign Sagittarius. Out of the 5 eclipses, 3 eclipses occurred over the landmass of China and all were almost at the start or at the end of the eclipse. Then there was a solar ingress on 16 December 2019 which also took place in the sign Sagittarius. Finally, a rare conjunction of 6 planets took place on 25 December 2019 again in the sign Sagittarius. Does all this event taking place in the sign Sagittarius in a sequential manner convey anything? Continued symbolic emphasis on a single sign, Sagittarius, is the nature's way of telling that something important is going to happen related to that sign with roots in China. The charts for all these events also forward spread of strange diseases in public by repeatedly stressing on certain astrological patterns and symbolism. The role of Ketu, the significator of epidemics and that of evil nakshatras such as Mula and Adra dominated the 5 events chart in China. Nature in its subtle way had given all symbolic indications for COVID-19 outbreak in China. Isn't that very much evident? There is one more interesting symbolism that emerges from the sign Sagittarius. Lord of the sign Sagittarius is the planet Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet for revenue finance as we have already seen. Jupiter is also part of the 6 planet conjunction. As such, sign Sagittarius and its lord Jupiter are part of all the events. Apart from Ketu, Jupiter is the only planet that has a continued presence in all the symbolism. Nothing can justify this omnipresent impact of Jupiter but the fact that epidemic or a pandemic is also about huge damage to economies and finances of the world as it is about infection and lives lost. In fact, the devastating impact of COVID-19 on the world economy is actually the only lasting effect of the pandemic with which the entire world is now gearing up to meet. Finally, last but not the least, the symbolism of sign Sagittarius suggests possible link of diseases transmission from mammal to humans. This is perhaps the biggest symbol present in the entire astrological examination of the case of COVID-19 outbreak in China. The medical fraternity investigating the origin of COVID-19 has so far been able to pinpoint only 2 animal sources from which the virus could have jumped onto human beings. These sources are first the bats and second the pangolin. Both these creatures are mammals. Recently, Dutch scientists have been able to pinpoint the mink as a probable source of transferring the virus to human beings. Interestingly, mink too is a mammal. No reptiles, no birds, no other form of creature is so far suspected of transferring novel virus to humans. This brings us back to the original question on hand after this astrological analysis. Did the repeated focus on sign of Sagittarius astrologically indicate the fact that a disease was to be transmitted to humans from some other mammals and resulting into a pandemic as witnessed now?
It would be very unfair if we do not discuss the countries of Asia Pacific which were witness to some of the Sagittarius specific celestial events. Some of the countries are listed out here. As we can see, Japan, North Korea, South Korea and Taiwan. They witnessed all the 3 events. Japan has significant impact. The major impact is that the country had to postpone the Olympics of 2020. This is a major impact for the country and it has got huge economic implications. The another country which witnessed all the 3 eclipses is North Korea. However, we do not know about its actual figures of infections or death rates. Nevertheless, there were serious political issues which came to fore in the same period regarding North Korea. Next is the country South Korea. All these countries are very near to China, therefore they witnessed all these events. In South Korea, there was initial flare of COVID-19 with a huge impact just like China. And similarly to China, the epidemic also died down from March onwards. Now coming to Taiwan. Taiwan is an island very near to China. We know that the epidemic of COVID-19 did not spread in China, in the major part of the China, but was restrained mostly in the district of Hubei. Taiwan is also an extension of China. As such, the epidemic did not travel to Taiwan in a big way. However, Taiwan has developed serious issues with China in the same period. Coming to Hong Kong, again the situation is same. The epidemic did not travel to Hong Kong, but serious issues have come up with China. As such, we can see for the countries which are very near to China, which witness all the three eclipses, there are not serious issues with the epidemic as such, but there are other serious issues which have come up which actually threaten the democracy in these countries. Coming to Singapore. Singapore did not see the first eclipse, but it was witness to the other two eclipses. Pandemic COVID-19 is a serious situation in the country, and the country is presently under lockdown. There are total of about 31,000 cases in that country. Coming to the country of Indonesia. This country also did not witness the 6 January solar eclipse. However, it witnessed the other two eclipses. This country has an impact of COVID-19. There are about 21,000 cases, but not a very huge impact. There is an impact. Again, coming to Thailand, it did not witness the first eclipse. The two other eclipses were visible. Impact is very minimum. Coming to country of Malaysia, which also witnessed only the last two eclipses, the impact is very minimum. Coming to Australia, this country witnessed only one of the eclipse, that is the 16th or 17th July lunar eclipse. The pandemic impact is actually very minimum. There are only 7,000 cases as such. However, the horoscope shows losses through fire. As such, bushfires have peaked in the same period. Finally, coming to New Zealand. This country also witnessed only one eclipse. There is practically very little impact of COVID-19. As such, in a conclusion, we can say that the countries around China, which witnessed all the three eclipses, did not have any major impact of the pandemic. However, there were other impacts visible which were quite serious enough, like we can see in Taiwan and Hong Kong. Further, the countries which witnessed two eclipses did have certain impact, but again, it was not a very huge impact. It was under control except for Singapore, which had a bit more number of cases. Then coming to the countries which have witnessed only one eclipse, the impact is almost minimal. As such, we can clearly conclude that the three eclipses had a major impact in the Asia Pacific region.
India too has witnessed the two eclipses of 17 July 2019 and 26 December 2019. It too has been impacted with the spread of epidemic of COVID-19. The situation may be somewhat in control, but it is catching on slowly and gradually in the country. Actually, India, with a huge population of 1,370 million and also being one of the highly densely populated country of the world, even a relatively small spread of the virus has the potential to rake up huge numbers on the global list of countries affected with the pandemic. Currently, there are about 131,000 cases, which account to only 95 per million, but the rate of infection is fast catching up. An early lockdown has certainly helped the nation in tackling the crisis of COVID-19 in a big way. Otherwise, it is not unreasonable to expect per day cases in the range of 25,000 to 30,000 as has happened in the USA or even more. Had this peak reached earlier on, India would have been listed at the top by now with millions of its citizens infected with the virus. Currently, number of cases per million population is around 95, whereas Singapore has a mammoth number of more than 5,000 per million. So is the case with all the major countries including USA, which has a similar number, which is approximately 5,900 per million affected with the coronavirus. Nevertheless, considering the astrological history similar to that of Singapore by the way of witnessing the two eclipses, India is bound to register huge number of cases as soon as it reaches even a 3-digit rate of cases per million of population. The astrological case for India is part of my next presentation, which will also include astrological case study of many countries of the world in the wake of global pandemic COVID-19. I am extremely thankful to all of you for being patient enough to bear me through the astrological stuff presented over leaf. Having researched the theme, I struck upon an interesting celestial pattern. I simply wanted to bring my findings before the entire world. The situation of COVID-19 pandemic and ensuing lockdown has however prevented me from a better studio recording of the presentation. Kindly bear with me. My next presentation will bring into focus the astrological factors leading to the spread of COVID-19 to other countries of the world and effectively turning the epidemic in China to a pandemic. Astrological case studies of several countries including India is part of that presentation. It will also include a way forward for the world in general and countries in specific with regards to one of the worst pandemic of our times. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep watching this space for my next presentation, which will be released in a couple of days from today. Thank you. Namaskaram.